How much is the ideal time to work? Now, this is something I've been thinking a lot about, especially over the last couple of weeks with different conversations I've been having and just kind of reflections on my own path, listening to talks, and just gaining insight on the whole topic. And it's a big topic. And of course, there are so many factors, stage of life and, what your goals are, your ambitions. And, so I'm going to offer two perspectives. One is, well, maybe even three. One is from the standpoint of you want to be successful. You want to create the life of your dreams. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business owner, that whole conversation is very nuanced. Then there's maybe the two I could wrap into one, which is just being a human. And, how much work and effort does it take to survive and or, again, a little bit elevated, thrive, to live a kind of a decent, comfortable life. And ultimately comes down to goals. And maybe I'll start with, what does it take just to kind of exist as a human? And, my perspective, of course, is influenced by my own journey, personal experience, my goals, and my path as kind of a self-starter, self-created path, and endpoint in that way. But, again, depends who you are, depends on, the time, the period, the country, everything that you live in, right? You have to understand humans throughout time, like it's not been unreasonable that some people do work, have to work every single day without break, 12, 14 hours a day. And we can look to history where there are, and in fact, still examples of humans alive today, very unfortunate and unimaginable circumstances of, let's say, being a slave, right? You have no choice. You are just put to the grindstone constantly. And that could be, again, being some sort of indentured slave, or it could just be, as so many people phrase it, a slave to the system, right? It's like, I got to pay my rent. I got to do this. I got to do that. Some people literally every single day. Now, just to kind of shift it outside of the perspective of, work for your living, let's even take a mother, right? Who may even have to have a job on top of that, being a mother, right? Outside the home, as well as being a homekeeper, right? Being a mother or a father, don't want to exclude the dads here too, can be 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, right? And you mothers, you know that. If you are a good mother and have that bond and your connection to your child, you are on 24/7, right? There is no break. There's no 4-hour work week, It's like your work is every single day. And just in the existence of being a human, right? Like, I've used this analogy before in terms of just like, nature provides, right? Okay, nature provides. Go out into a forest naked and tell me how much nature provides without you putting in the effort, right? Without you, like, if you are living off the land, if you are a farmer, there's another example of a 7 days a week, no days off, right? Your days off, your moments off come when you can have your children, your husband, work hands, farm hands, help and assist you with that 7 day a week job. All the tasks that are required. Like, life just requires work and energy and input. And, maybe part of where this has been coming from for me is it's definitely not generational, though one could see it as that, right? Often older generations, they look at all the millennials and the younger, and I don't even know what those terms are, Gen Zs, whatever it is, and go like, oh, they're lazy, right? And yeah, in our day and age, our society, we have a certain level of comfort and affluence, where there's a lot of people that, don't have to work. They have enough money to trade for their basic needs and necessities and some. And yeah, that can be aspirational for, again, people who have it, but people who also don't have it. And this idea of like, well, I don't want to work. I want to lie around all day. I want to, live a life of leisure, and it should be, provided to me in that sense. And yeah, that does exist now. That has existed in the past, but for the vast majority of humanity throughout time, unless you were of some high stature and royalty, totally unrealistic. Does that mean that you should not have it now? Well, again, certain circumstances and effort in for reward back. And I would say that it takes more input than most people are willing to put in to get to that level, which then leads us to this kind of second path of the entrepreneur, the business owner, what it takes to get to a point of the quote unquote the 4-hour work week, or other ideas of where that level of attainment can get you. One other point I want to bring in here, which is kind of maybe a bridge to both, is I was listening to a Jim Rohn talk, kind of old school self-development speaker, and he talked about with reference to the Bible, and he says, when God created the earth, on the seventh day he rested, and for him, he was like humans, right? Like he took that as kind of a literal, instruction and a guide and a manual of like, I work 6 days and I take 1 day off, so his kind of biblical perspective is like, that's the ideal. That's how, God operates, and that's how, me as a human made in the image of God, that's how I'm going to operate, or how I should operate. And he also comes from the perspective of the entrepreneur, the self-made man, in kind of his wording. And the talk I was listening to is how to be a self-made millionaire. And he, in no uncertain terms, and this is again from my experience, he's like, your 40 hours a week, like that's for your subsistence, it's like that's to kind of get you week to week, buy to buy. But he's like, if you want to like go and grow above that, every hour that you put in is then banking into that future potential, investing in yourself, investing in, accumulating more wealth and or skills to generate more wealth beyond just your kind of regular everyday subsistence. So for him, 40 hours minimum, and 6 days. And within those 6 days, it's about longer hours, more focused time, just maximizing on that. And that's definitely been my experience, where being an entrepreneur, at least in my path and what I've seen other people that have really created something for themselves, it is a lot of hours, a lot of focus, and constant for a long time. And it's kind of delusional to think that you can get into it and get results that you dream of just as a part-time hobby. Not to say it can't be done, not to say that absolutely, there are definitely examples of people that have done it in short amount of time with way less work, but on average, the vast majority have come from just relentless drive and having that passion and that focus, which comes down to like, if you've got the energy for it, because it gives you energy, because it's your passion, because you've got that determination, you see the goal ahead of you, and as you're engaged in that work, is it really work? It becomes, hopefully, and it is at many times, like a joy, to be able to do that and go at it at that length. So no simple answer there, but I think wanted to kind of offer kind of a perspective, a reality check on what is reasonable. And again, speaking from my own experience, speaking from my own observations, which sometimes I feel is like in contrast to maybe more wishful thinking. Anyways, what do you think? Those are my thoughts, spurred on by had a conversation with a woman in a nutritional consulting space, and I just gave her kudos. I was like, you are doing it, you are busy. And she just immediately launched into, she's like, Malcolm, here I am, it's a Friday night and I'm writing blogs, and I go to events and I do this, and similar kind of train of thought in terms of just like, I've had so many like young and up and coming nutritionists that want to get into the business but just unwilling to put in the work, and here I am, like I'm successful and I'm still doing it and I'm busy because of this, and just kind of similar, exactly what I shared. So let me know what you think. What has been your experience, observations, and definitely let me know if I know there's all kinds of ways and paths to do this. Maybe your situation is unique. Love to hear that too. And just some thoughts on work.